Hello, good morning everyone. This is Nick Caracal, live in New York. So magandang umaga dito sa US, magandang gabi sa Philippines, right? So I will just have to have a very quick update as far as the rumors or fact-based information about the holding of green card applications inside the US. So, ang mga pag-uusapan natin ngayon are yung mga applicants for adjustment of status or people who are actually applying for green card inside the US. So, again, just like our normal exercise, if you have questions, please write them on the comments section and I will try to respond to them as we go on with the Facebook Live. Okay? Nakashare na rin sa screen ko yung some information and then we will tackle them as we move to the presentation. So, again, hindi ko na isa-isahin yung i-acknowledge lahat ng nanonood natin. But again, thank you very much for tuning in. We will talk about US-based green cards on hold. Is it a fact or a rumor? Then we'll talk about that. I would just like to have a disclaimer. Everything that I actually talk about here is just for reference purposes only or for educational purposes. Don't take it as a specific advice coming from me. But I will try to respond to your general questions again sa live natin. So again, maraming salamat sa lahat mga nanonood. Okay. So ano ba yung issue natin dito at saan nagsimula yung bakit there's a big number of immigration lawyers who actually went into Facebook Live or YouTube Live and talk about the rumor supposedly or a fact based comment about the US government holding on to the processing of the green card applications inside the US or commonly known as the adjustment of status. So, ang nangyari, there is actually a news source called the Roll Call actually posted on their website and it actually went viral that it actually says administration puts on hold the green card request from the US. And the primary tagline nila is this is driven primarily by the pandemic uh, issue na pinag-uusapan natin ngayon. So of course, there's a lot of factors affecting that. Funding from the USCIS or people available people working at the office. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Then 5 days later, the same news agency actually posted that hey, USCIS is now reprocessing green card applications. So when I actually set up the Facebook calendar live today, we haven't read that there was an latest development. Then I actually saw that yesterday, so I said, okay, might as well talk about the latest development. So, sino ba si roll call or reliable ba yung news agency na yan? So, it looks like roll call is a very reliable source. They've been there for years. They actually focus on political news or information affecting U.S. Congress or the White House and any critical law that affects the United States. So, they've been a trusted source, or there's a lot of people there who actually have huge credibility as far as the information that they share to the public. If you actually read through the news, if you visit their website, rollcall.com, yung reporter na to actually seem to have insider information inside USCIS. USCIS or the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, yun yung agency na nagpa-process ng lahat ng immigration applications. So it looks like they have an insider or insider information, nag-leak yung email or guidance internally within USCIS, then nakuha nila. That's why they actually reported it. They tried to reach out to USCIS. Based on the latest update, they seem to have confirmation from USCIS sources na totoo yung initial information na nakuha nila. But later, it was actually deleted from the post dahil nga may mga mali-maling information. So that's the reason why they actually gave an update 5 days later. Okay, so again, roll call is a very reliable source as far as information or data affecting Congress or the White House or any critical law affecting the United States. So we could say that we could trust this information then. Okay, so I'm actually just showing you some tidbits of what the report looked like. So ito yung sinasabi natin na on the first update nila on June 12, they actually said that, hey, USCIS is actually putting a general hold on the processing of green card application inside the US with some exceptions. And of course, we're going to talk about the exceptions in the next slide. And then 5 days later, they actually issued that, hey, shade a follow-up or an update that, hey, USCIS is now resuming the processing of the green card applications. Okay, so sinasabi nila that there is a general hold. So what they are saying is whether it's a family-based green card application or an employment-based green card application, then USCIS initially had put a general hold. So tatanggapin pa rin nila yung applications mo, but they are not going to adjudicate or they are not going to make a decision on your application because of primarily the pandemic risk, the impact of the pandemic. There are funding issues and there are human resource issues and other factors. Okay? Hindi mo na ako magsasagot ng mga tanong kasi nga nasa introductory part pa naman ako. But what are those exceptions sa general hold? So applications of medical providers to fight COVID, no? So they are actually considered critical mission applications. So even those applications at the embassy level, they are actually giving those exceptions to be prioritized in terms of interviews, even if the embassies generally has closed its doors because of the impact of the pandemic, but they are accommodating them. The other applications are those applications that concern an emergent or sensitive matter. As a matter of fact, U.S. Embassy Manila had actually made a public advisory that all in-person applications has been put on hold until July 3rd. But some of our clients were actually receiving emails or receiving calls from the U.S. Embassy that, hey, as an example of that, if your child you will be aging out, they will be reaching 21 years old, and in the upcoming weeks, we are advised to actually call the embassy and set up an emergency interviews for them with the hope of saving their aging out status. No? So yun yung mga examples of applications that are actually exempted from the general hold instructions. So again, as of now, USIS seems to be saying we don't put a hold anymore, but let's see in the next slides if tugma ba siya sa mga nakikita nating functions or published processing times ng USCIS. Okay? So, ang sinasabi nila as of June 17, USCIS anticipates to complete the postponed citizenship ceremonies by end of July. So, even after the general hold advisory or yung nag-leak na information, they are actually now calling in applicants for oath-taking ceremonies. So yung mga taong nag-apply ng citizenship and have completed the examination as of March, and they actually have their interviews, so policy or oath-taking ceremonies before the pandemic the pandemic issue came out, and then suddenly all interviews were canceled. Ngayon, sila yung priority. No? So we've actually seen some of your friends on their Facebook that they have already had attended their oath-taking ceremonies and they are now US citizens. So sila yung inuuna, and then sabi ng USCIS that all of those postponed oath-taking ceremonies will be done by end of July. Then after that, we are now actually accommodating in-person green card interviews. So again, whether that was a response because of the leaked information 5 days ago, but that at least that's the statement officially from USIS, not as an official statement to the public, but at least a response to whoever is the person from the roll call news agency. Okay. Okay, so may tanong lang dito about kay Jen Rinaw. So, attorney applying for citizenship more than 12 years na po green card holder, good time po ba na ngayon mag-process? Generally, I would recommend, right, especially nowadays that there's a very unstable immigration law developments, no? Maraming mga changes in procedures, there's a lot of changes in regulations. And then again, as what I've actually said in the previous Facebook live, the group of people who have the legal right to stay in the United States are the citizens of the United States. So anyone who are not US citizens are only privileged to stay in the United States. So if you are eligible to apply for citizenship, then I would recommend that you submit it now, right? There's a lot of advantages doing that, and then they are prioritizing or taking ceremonies for citizenship applicants anyway. So I would recommend that yes, you might proceed with your application. Okay, so go to the next slide. So let's talk about facts and figures first, right? So USCIS or US Citizenship and Immigration Services is entirely funded by the application fees. So if you actually notice that when there is a lack of funding from the government, nung mayroong threats of the government will be shutting down kasi walang mga funding, USCIS for X number of years has been able to support itself coming from the filing fees that they receive from the applicants. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, they have been financially affected and they are now seeking $1.2 billion emergency funding from from Congress. And they are actually saying that the group of workers working for USCIS that if Congress will not actually give the requested funding, there is a more likelihood that 70% of the agency's workforce will be expected to be furloughed. So ibig sabihin, hindi mo na papasukin kasi wala naman silang pambayad, right? So what does that mean to the applicants then, or for people who are actually trying to migrate to the United States? So with 70% of your workforce not being able to work, whether it's in office or in your home, in their home, respective homes, then you could actually expect a significant delay in terms of your applications or processing of your applications. And that is aggravated with the pandemic that, oh, they are not able to accommodate in-person activities or interviews. So it will just be one issue put on top of each of another issue, then it actually just becoming an aggravated situation which could potentially result in a significant delay. Now, so ang title ng Facebook Live natin ngayon is There a Green Card General Hold? USCIS is saying that no, there's no more general hold. But with all these funding issues and human resource issues, you might expect significant delay of your processing of your applications. Okay? And then, so yun yung facts and figures. And then they actually look into the actual green card applications process from March 30 to June 1st, 2019, and compared it to the same period this year. Last year, they were able to actually process 107,000 green card applications. But to this year, looking into the same period, they are only able to process 45,000 green card applications. So by that, you would actually see that there is a 58% reduction of green card applications during the same period. It's unfortunate that we don't have information which portion of that is due to the pandemic or other factors. But at least the numbers show that there is a 58% reduction of applications or green card applications being processed within the same time period. Okay, and then so ito yung sinasabi natin na USIS is actually resuming now the processing of green cards. Normally, before the pandemic, when you actually look into the published processing times of USCIS, yung mga green card application, and even when we actually do the initial consultation sa office namin, when clients ask, hey, how much time do we have to wait after we file the green card application to expect an interview? So we normally say that because we said concurrent applications, it means you will be filing your spouse visa application together with a green card application, and then yung work at saka travel permits mo, dahil libre yung work at saka travel permit when it's actually filed with the green card application. So when we explain the timeline to them, we said normally the work and the travel permits will be issued first within 5 months from filing the application, because we anticipated that the green card interviews may actually come later. If you have the work and the travel permit, at least by functionality, para ka ng green card holder nun, right? Kasi pag may work permit ka, you'll be able to work legally in the United States. If you have a travel permit, then you will be able to travel in and out of the United States without a problem. Except for people who actually have unlawful presence. So unlawful presence means na at any given time nawalan ka ng visa, allowed stay, no? So nag-expire yung authorized stay in the US. So unlawfully present ka na sa US noon. Sa term ng Pilipino, tago ka na ng point na yon. No? So if you have a total of 6 months of or more unlawful presence, then we don't recognize that you travel outside the United States even if you have an approved travel permit. So again, going back to the timeline, right? So nasabi natin, once we apply those 4 applications, 5 months later, you will receive your work and travel permit. Under normal conditions, then you will be able to work legally in the United States, and then you will be able to travel in and outside the United States without problem coming back. Then, after that, the green card interviews may happen between the 6th or the 9th month. But after the pandemic, if you actually look into the US processing times, and you can visit uscis.gov, and then you select the form I-485 because that is actually for your green card application. Ito yung mga applications natin in California, no? California. If your green card application has been, yung mga interview has been waived, ibig sabihin wala ng personal interview. Ibig sabihin no, nasa service center pa lang yung application mo. Because for the green card interviews to happen, it will be forwarded to the local office. So ibig sabihin, when we file the application, it's normally or generally filed at the Chicago lockbox. And then from Chicago, they will actually assign it to the center generally closest to you. So if you live in California, then chances are it will be assigned to California Service Center. And then if you live in the East Coast, chances are it will be actually filed either in Vermont or Texas or National Benefits Center, right? But once they determine that your interview has been scheduled, and if you live in New York, then it will be forwarded to the local office. Yung local office ang mag-i-interview sa'yo, ang local office din ang mag-grant ng green card mo. So again, in cases where there is no interview or your green card will be issued without interview, nasa service center ka pa lang. Normally, ang processing time nun is nasa 9th month or 15 months or 16 months. Right? Matagal-tagal pa rin. But not that long. If you look into the current published processing times ng 4 na service center ngayon, except for Nebraska, California, Texas, and Vermont, if your case is assigned to these service centers, you may be waiting from 8 months to 29 months. That's almost 3 years from the time you apply for a green card. So, before the pandemic, kasi nga, sinasabi natin, normal processing ng green card mo is basically 9th month or to the 15th month. Beyond that, what we normally do is we escalate your case because it's already outside of the normal processing time. But what's happening now, if the service center is saying, if you file a green card application to us and you are waiting, let's say 24 months, so you are basically waiting 2 years now, but their normal processing time, let's say in Vermont, is 13 months to 26 months. So then you cannot escalate your case because pag tinawagan mo sila, ang sagot sa'yo, you are under normal processing time. Kasi yun yung published normal processing time nila. Now, so going back to the topic ng Facebook Live natin ngayon, is USCIS putting on hold green card processing? You might actually say that they may if you actually look into the processing times. But USCIS could actually come back to say na hindi namin hinag-hold. Ang problema, wala kaming taong mag-i-interview or hindi na namin sila i-interviewin kasi nga mayroon pa tayong pandemic issue. But now, the processing time is becoming almost 3 years waiting. Whether you're gonna look at that as putting on hold or you just actually look into that as significant delay because of so many factors, this is our reality now. No? So pag nag-file ka ng green card, don't blame your lawyers or don't blame yourself if you're actually self-filing it. There is no problem with your case, generally speaking. It is just that the published processing times of these service centers has significantly been delayed. So yun yung current natin na waiting periods now if you file the green card applications. Now, what happens if your case has not been waived for the interview, no? So, maraming lugar, but I am actually just selecting 4 locations here. So, if you live in New York, and if you are still waiting for your green card interview, the current published processing time for New York is 8 months to 29 months. So ibig sabihin, if you've been waiting for 2 years now, then you cannot complain because the processing time is 29 months maximum. Beyond the 29 months, then your lawyer may be able to call them or escalate your case because it's beyond normal processing time. Houston, Texas, 34 months. Los Angeles, 33 months. Las Vegas, Nevada, 29 months. So you can actually go to uscis.gov as, again, check processing times, and then select I-485, that is for the green card adjustment of status, and then look into the local office. If you actually been advised already that you are scheduled for interview, tingnan mo yung local office ng list na closest to you. In New York, there is a Queens local office or a Manhattan local office. Then select the right location mo and then check the normal processing time. Okay? So I hope I was able to, by showing you the processing times, anong difference ng service center. Ito yung mga cases mo na hindi na i-interviewin most likely. Pero pag inassign ka sa local office, ibig sabihin nun, i-interviewin ka. Okay? So we have one question from Tara. And is the best time to apply citizenship? Okay, what is the best time to apply for citizenship? After 5 years? Or can we do that 6 months before you reach your 5th year? Okay. Generally speaking, ma'am, assuming that you have not been outside the United States for 6 months or more, if you are talking about 5 years, then I presume na you are not applying for citizenship based on marriage. Then normally you should be able to file your application 90 days before your card expires or before your 5th year anniversary. Okay? Yung 6th month na sinasabi mo are actually for emergency cases. So again, I don't know the specific of your case, but generally speaking, you should be able to file your citizenship application 90 days before your 5th year anniversary if you have not been outside the United States for 6 months or more. Okay, going back to our slides. So, ano yung mga sinasabi natin na waive green card interviews? First question, can I call USCIS and demand that I should be, my interview will be waived? It doesn't work that way. No. So, ang gagawin natin, based on our actual practice, on the cases that we actually see in our cases now. So, waive green card interviews, parents, wala pa kaming client na parent na in-interview. So all those are approved without interview. Minor children, unless the minor children are applying with the parent, wala pa kaming nakita din na minor children na in-interview. For as long as you provided them with sufficient documentation to prove that anak mo nga yung pinipetition mo. Removal of conditions, generally speaking, walang interview yan. No? So ito yung mga applicants who have, generally speaking, on the family-based side, nag-asawa sila and then they were interviewed before the 2nd year anniversary ng wedding nila. Then they will actually receive a 2-year green card. Then after that, 90 days before mag-expire yung 2-year green card nila, they are advised to apply for the removal of condition on residence. Generally, walang interview yon. But there are cases where those applicants under that area will be interviewed. Una, pag nagdududa yung officer na, hey, you have not submitted sufficient documentation ng 2 years mo na sinasabi mo mag-asawa kayo. Or generally, if you obtain your green card in the beginning na walang interview, chances are you will be interviewed for the removal of condition. May nakikita din kami ng mga spouse visa applications na walang interview. But these are very rare cases, right? So if I actually look into my 5-year practice, kung may mga spouse visa man kami na nag-green card without interview, siguro mga 3 or 5 in 1 year. So talagang very rare. But does it happen? Yeah, it happens sometimes. Okay? Next. So I only have 2 slides remaining. So if may tanong kayo, ilagay nyo na lang doon sa questions. No? So I have a question here from Mary Grace. When should I apply for green card if I have an H-1B right now? Okay, ma'am, very good question. No? So the decision to apply for H-1B to a green card is actually more of a company policy. So because as an employer, I generally speaking, I would want to maximize my time to hold you to work for me. As an H-1B visa holder, you have maximum 6 years to be on an H-1B. Then after that, the employer should decide whether they are going to petition your green card. Now, if you have your H-1B, initially 3 years yon. Ang fear kasi ng mga employer is pag nagbigyan na yung mga H-1 visa holders ng green card, then baka daw iwanan sila. No. So, ang protection ng employer is, o sige, maximize ko yung 6 years mo muna before kita start i-file ng green card. But, if you have a very good relationship with your employer and their internal policy allows you, kasi may mga companies kasi na you cannot apply for green card unless you serve minimum 3 years for them. May mga ganon. No? Pero kung wala namang ganon, then have a conversation with HR if they are actually willing to support your green card application because you are currently on H-1B now. It actually gives you more confidence and wala kang iisipin every day kasi naka-process yung green card mo, so you can just actually focus on your job, then have that conversation. If they said okay, then apply anytime. No, walang restriction ang H-1B to green card application. Okay? Namimili lang ako dito ng sasagutin ko. Okay, moving on. So, ano nang mangyayari ngayon? No, so alam na natin na the roll call report has some sort of basis nung sinabi nila na, yeah, USCIS said that they will actually put on hold. And then 5 days later, they said, sinabi ng USCIS na magpa-process na sila ngayon ng green card. So there was truth to that. Then we talk about other things. Ngayon ang tanong, ano nang mangyayari ngayon? If you have not filed your green card application yet, or you have been denied, no? Then I would still recommend that you file your green card application now for the following reasons. For you to be able to maintain status. Halimbawa, you are now currently on a B2 visa. Especially pag nasa employment base ka, you cannot afford to be unlawfully present in the US or mawalan ka ng status. No. So, if you have an employer willing to file your green card application for you, then file your green card anytime. Because the moment na na-file mo yung green card mo at nag-expire yung visa mo, so halimbawa, tourist visa ka, holder, mag-expire yung tourist visa mo today, but you were able to file your green card application bukas, then hindi mo na kailangang mag-file ng extension ng tourist visa mo because you will not incur unlawful presence the moment that USCIS receive your application for the green card. Second, sa sinasabi natin kanina nga, pag na-file yung green card mo, tatagal man ng 2 years o 3 years yung green card application mo because of the pandemic, then it's okay. The USCIS is still deciding on work permit applications about 5 months from the time you file your green card. So you will also receive your social security number. Kaya it actually means that once you receive your work travel permit, you have the life of a green card holder. You can work legally, you can travel in and out, right? Wala kang halang green card, but it's okay. Now, second, if your application has already been denied, you can refile immediately, again, depending on the basis of the denial, and then at least to avoid deportation. Even the good thing about now with the pandemic, the courts were closed, but they are now starting to reopen. Kung hindi lang sila closed because of the pandemic, then chances are they will be sending out notices to appear. Yun na yung first step mo to start with the deportation proceeding. Next scenario here is, what if naman kung waiting for approval na? So ibig sabihin, nakapag-file ka na ng green card mo, so then what na? What happens now? So una, sa sinasabi natin kanina, wala ka ng unlawful presence. So even if yung visa mo ngayon nag-expire na but it was your green card application was filed on time, then wala ka ng worry na nagkakaroon ka ng unlawful presence. So you don't have to call yourself tago ng tago because you were able to timely file your green card application. Second, stalled unlawful presence. So example, especially on the employment-based side of people waiting for their green card. No, you cannot stay in the US without status for 6 months or more. Kasi it will be a bar for you to adjust or to apply for your green card. Then even if you go home and you've been out of status for 6 months or more, then you will be banned from coming into the United States for 3 years or 10 years depending kung gaano kakatagal walang status. So again, if you're waiting or because you timely file, that helps you to stall your unlawful presence. Third, kagaya na sinabi natin kanina, once your green card application is filed, then 5 months from filing January, you will receive your work travel permit as well as your social security number that would enable you to work in the United States legally. Can we escalate it? No, generally no. Kasi nga, with the published processing times, yun yung normal processing time ng office na yun. So if your case is within that time period, then there is no basis for you to file escalation based on outside normal processing time. Okay, that actually ends my quick update on the rumored green card interviews based in the United States on hold. So again, just to summarize my statement, it seemed to be a true statement from roll call in the beginning. USCIS reversed that information. They are saying that they are now resuming the application for the green cards inside the US, but expect significant delays in the processing. For the number one reason, they have funding issues. Second, we still have the pandemic issue. And then third, human resource issue. If you don't have people working in the office, or if the office is not adequately equipped with protocols to help lessen the impact of the pandemic, then they were not going to open. And it will actually cause significant delay in the processing of your application. Okay? So, may mga pahabol dito, mga tanong from Kaambo. Attorney, would it be better if I have my son here in the US? He is unmarried, 25 years old, but not able to include him due to overage before filing. He had 10-year visa. Kaambo, no? So if he doesn't have, if he has a tourist visa, then he can actually visit you, no? Now, what your options to keep him stay longer? I would recommend that you have a conversation with an attorney to explore his options, no? There is a different law that might be a challenge for you. If he comes in on a tourist visa, then he cannot adjust or change status 3 months from the time of arrival, and then he have limited options because he is more than 21 years old. Then again, I would recommend that you talk to an immigration lawyer. Okay. Hi, Robin. Uh, May Albanas. Good morning po. What about those green card holders who are current in the Philippines? How long can they stay there since the flights are still a concern? Okay, May, good question though. For green card applications, again, it the the threat of USCIS putting on hold does not affect them, generally speaking, because they are already green card holders. But ang concern mo is hanggang kailan sila pwede magstay doon. Um, if the intention is not to affect their eligibility for citizenship, they should not stay there for 6 months or more, right? If they have the ability to come back to the United States before the sixth month outside the US, then come back. Para pagbalik nila, if they already been in the US for 4 years, they will be eligible for citizenship the following year. Now, if they've been outside the United States for 1 year or more, then uh, there is a risk that they will lose their green card status because by operation of law, if you've been outside the United States for 1 year or more and you did not apply for re-entry permit, then you actually lost your green card status. But there is a remedy to regain back your green card status called the returning resident. But again, it's a different conversation. I would recommend that you talk to a lawyer. The pandemic, being stranded because of the pandemic, is a good reason enough to regain back your lost immigrant status then. But again, to answer your question generally, if you don't want your citizenship eligibility to be affected, then don't stay outside the US for 6 months or more. If you don't want to lose your green card status, then don't stay outside the US for 1 year or more. Okay, I hope that I made it clear. Love Colleen, open na po ba USCIS? I'm waiting for my biometrics. There are offices that are open. Which office are open? We don't know. Biometrics, they are still not open for fingerprinting. So don't worry about the fingerprinting though. No. So for if you have had an applications before, you will actually receive a notification that hey, they are going to acknowledge your biometrics before. Generally, they don't do that, but because of the pandemic, most of our clients are receiving courtesy letters that hey, they are going to acknowledge your previously acquired biometrics. Last question, Kaambo. If starting to feel my son GC would affect his B2 visa. Filing the green card application will not result to cancellation of his B2 visa. Um, no, it will not affect the B2 visa. So the only situation where the B2 visa will be cancelled is if na-approve na yung immigrant petition niya at malapit na siyang papasok dito sa United States. Okay? He might have a challenge of renewing the visa though, no? Because pag mag-apply siya ng tourist visa kasi nag-expire na yung isa, then the officer will be able to say, oh, you have a pending immigrant petition, and it might affect the decision-making process of the officer handling the case. Hello, George Soto. Thanks for tuning in. So then again, I actually just showed processing times and how it could impact people who are still waiting for their green card. Okay? So again, maraming salamat po. Thank you po for tuning in. Yung mga ibang hindi ko na nabasa, okay, may pahabol si Tio Juliet. I just filed for I-140, na-submit na sa DOL, pero na-max out na po yung H-1B niya. Ma-expire na next month, July. Okay, so Juliet, I would recommend that you actually talk to a lawyer for the details now, but I would just like to actually look into the overall situation mo. Yung H-1B mo, mag-expire July 30, 2020. Of course, there are grace periods. You can pero in-apply na siya ng green card. So, I think the meat of your question will be, if ma-timely file ba yung green card application mo, if it's based on an EB3, general professionals, then chances are mawawalan ka ng status because the current visa bulletin ngayon, ang waiting period is about 2 to 3 years, no, based on the visa bulletin. But if you are eligible for the advanced degree, EB2, then you might be able to actually change from H-1B to other non-immigrant visa. So let's say from H-1B to tourist visa, just to be able to maintain status. And then at that period of time, pwede na rin nakapending yung EB2 mo. But again, for purposes of getting the best option or strategy for you, I would recommend that you consult a lawyer. Okay? So again, last na lang talaga, si Peter Ishon, na I'm F3 beneficiary since April 2010, long more for me to be current. Okay, so sa case mo, we really have no choice but wait a little bit. Okay? So again, maraming salamat for tuning in. If you would want to get more updates from me for US immigration, you could either follow me on Facebook or you can actually subscribe my YouTube channel so you'll be able to get more updates from me. Yung mga nagre-request ng friends request sa akin, unfortunately, I could not accept new friends anymore. And then for those who are planning to send us messages, I would recommend that you send a private message to the iDream America account, Facebook account. Again, maraming salamat. Still stay safe and thank you po. Bye-bye.